Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the November 5th, 2021 Public Safety Coordinating Council meeting. Ms. Preza, if we could have a roll call, please.
Ms. Julianne Holt.
Here.
Sheriff Chronister.
Colonel Christy Poore for Sheriff Chronister is here.
Chief Judge of Figueroa.
Here.
Mr. Andrew Warren.
Sharia Wilds here for Andrew Warren.
Judge John Conrad. Commissioner Overman.
Here.
Miss Cindy Stewart. Mr. Nick Bates.
Here.
Mr. Rob Parkinson.
Here.
Miss Yvette Lewis. Acting Chief Ruben Delgado.
Lee Burkaw, Assistant Chief, here for him.
Miss Cindy Grant. Miss Judy Royston. Here. Miss Obregon.
Here.
Mr. Barentine.
Michael Johnson is here for Patrick Barrington.
Colonel Christy Poore.
Major Chris Baumann here for Colonel Poore.
Chief Chris Daniel.
Captain Marty King for Chief Chris Daniel.
Ms. Condamo.
Here.
Mr. Addison Davis. Mr. Mark Proctor.
Present.
Councilman Goulds.
Here.
Senator Rowson. Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Holt, if I, this was John Conrad. I was muted, and I am present.
Thank you, Judge. All right, because I do see a lot of new faces here this morning, I think what I'll do is we'll start and let everybody introduce themselves and just kind of tell us the agency you're with and what role you play within the agency. And I'll start with you, Major Baumann.
Major Chris Baumann. I'm the Division Commander for Jail Division 3, which incorporates all of the reentry programs, all of the external functions of the jail, with the exception of the actual confinement of inmates.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, Marty King. I'm the Patrol Operations Commander, University of South Florida Police Department.
Nick Bates, representing Neighborhood Watch.
County Commissioner Kimberly Overman, Vice Chair.
Mark Proctor with the Braiding Chamber of Commerce, and the reason I'm here is when Steve Anderson first formed the Public Safety Coordinating Council, he got together with the Chambers of Commerce, and we were instrumental in getting the organization started so that we could coordinate all of the public safety activities, and I've been serving in that capacity as the representative of the Chamber of Commerce ever since.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm here for Sheriff Chad Chronister. My name is Christy Poore. I'm the Colonel of the Detention Services Department, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, and also our training division.
Julianne Holt, the public defender here in Hillsborough County, and we are one of the core statutory members of the Public Safety Coordinating Council.
I'm Sharia Wilds. I'm the Chief of the Problem-Solving Courts for the State Attorney's Office.
Patricia Condamo on behalf of the Tampa Hispanic Bar Association. I'm the immediate past president.
I'm Rob Parkinson. I'm the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners Criminal Justice Liaison.
Good morning. I'm Lee Burkaw. I'm the Assistant Chief of Operations at the Tampa Police Department, sitting in for Chief Delgado.
Sorry about that. Judy Royston, DJJ. I'm over the Probation and Community Intervention Branch.
Mr. Jaquiss.
Good morning. My name is Manley Jaquiss, and I'm the intake supervisor with the Department of Corrections here in Tampa.
And Ms. Preza, if the record could reflect that Ms. Yvette Lewis is here, and she is the president of the NAACP. If you could just say good morning to everyone, Ms. Lewis.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
right, in your packet are the minutes for the May 15th, 2020 and May 14th, 2021 meetings. If you could take a look at the minutes and if we could have an appropriate motion.
Move approval.
Move approval by Commissioner Overman, a second by Mr. Bates. Does anyone see any additions, corrections, or deletions that need to be made to the minutes? Does anyone want to discuss the motion that has been made? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much, and may the record also reflect that our Clerk of Court, Cindy Stewart, is also here. Good morning, Ms. Stewart. Under old business, we have the Hillsborough County Baker Act Receiving System and Transportation Plan Review and Recommendations to the Board of County Commission. Those of us that were on the Executive Committee saw and heard the presentation. However, Mr. Parkinson, at this time, could you and Ms. Barfield please handle this matter?
Absolutely. I'd like to call Ms. Karen Barfield from Central Florida Behavioral Healthcare Network. Florida statute requires that each community initiates a Baker Act Receiving System Plan and Transportation Plan. This was developed after the passage of Senate Bill 12 about 5 years ago. Hillsborough County happened to be the first county in the rotation to renew their transportation plan, so it's actually time for us to renew. I'd also like to note that we're moving from a 5-year cycle to a 3-year cycle. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Barfield to give us an overview of where we're at and what we need.
Good morning, and thank you, Rob, for providing the background information, the history. I would like to note the instrumental players that were involved 5 years ago, and the plans were spearheaded by Richard Brown, as well as Mark Engelhardt, Marcia Monroe. The subcommittee was chaired by Stephanie Krager from HCSO and Dan McDonald from TPD. They did an excellent job, and there's been a lot of really great feedback on the plan that was created here in Hillsborough County. The Acute Care Committee acts as a forum for addressing issues as they arise in the implementation of both the Behavioral Health Receiving System and the Behavioral Health Transportation Plan. The plans are a standing agenda item at our monthly meeting, and the Acute Care Committee elected to have a subcommittee do that deeper dive into the edits and the review of the plans. The focus of the subcommittee was to review and update, but the purpose was not to rewrite the plans. Subcommittee provided updates monthly at the Acute Care meeting, and the plans were brought back to the Acute Care Committee for final review and edits in entirety in August of 2021. One of the things that was outstanding when I was here September 17th was the Acute Care Committee had not approved the plans. That happened on October 21st at our October meeting. In your packet, there is a slide that sort of summarizes the review process that we did, which was very comprehensive. Some of the things that we did were addressing the format issues and the language use to make sure that it was consistent throughout both of the documents. There were the addition of title pages, table of contents. We also made the addition of adding House Bill 945 to the plans. House Bill 945 focuses on how children and adolescents enter and exit the behavioral health system, and that is plans that are currently being worked on throughout the state of Florida. That information was added. We also updated our Baker Act and Marchman Act data, updated our CIT section, updated all the appendices, and again, addressed language to ensure that we were not using language that was stigma-inducing. So since that September 17th time that I was here, the outstanding edits at that time were the approval from the Acute Care Committee, which did happen October 21st. The Behavioral Health Receiving System Appendix 1, which is an inventory of providers, was still in editing process. Happy to report that was completed. And we also updated provider names throughout the document. You might be aware that DACO is now Code Behavioral Health. We ensured that correction. We also ensured correction to HCA's name. There's been some rebranding with their name, and that name was updated throughout the document. So thank you very much for your time here this morning, and I'd like to respectfully request approval or endorsement of the plans. Thank you.
any questions of Ms. Barfield and the report that she previously made earlier this year, as well as her presentation today? And if not, we would then be seeking a motion to recommend to the Board of County Commission that they approve the 2022 through the 2025 Behavioral Health Receiving System and Behavioral Health Transportation Plan as outlined.
I'll make that recommendation. I'll make that motion. Commissioner Overman makes the motion to approve the presentation to the Board of
All
County
right.
Commission.
Motion by Commissioner Overman, a second by,
I'll second it.
is that the Chief Judge?
Yes, that's me.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much, Judge. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Thank you.
And thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Karen.
that.
Thanks for all the great work you've been doing for years.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Under new business at this time, Ms. Preza, the nomination of new officers.
At this time, we will now hold nominations for Chair and Vice Chair of the Public Safety Coordinating Council. Pursuant to the PSCC bylaws, the election of officers will be held at our January full council meeting. Only those members statutorily required to be on the PSCC may be nominated. The names of those persons are listed on the memorandum before you. May I have a nomination for Chair?
I nominate Ms. Holt.
May I have a nomination for Vice Chair?
I nominate Sheriff Chronister.
Thank you. Once again, the election will be held at the January PSCC meeting. Mr. Nick Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Bates, on behalf of Sheriff Chronister and myself. Appreciate it very much. In your packet are the 2022 Public Safety Coordinating Council Master Calendar proposed dates. If you could take a moment to just look at those and see if anything stands out as a very inappropriate date due to either a holiday, conflicts that you know that exist with something major going on, anything of that sort. And as you can see, the locations are to be determined at this time. And the calendar is right past is the first document right past the minutes.
Public Defender Holt, when is Good Friday? Because I see there's a date in April frequently. That's a holiday month. I'm just not sure when Easter falls this year, and I had not double-checked the calendar.
That would be Earth Day.
Earth Day, okay. Okay. It's the week before. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Seeing no changes, I'll make a motion to approve the master calendar for 2022.
All right, motion by Commissioner Overman to accept these proposed dates as our calendar for 2022. Is there a second? There's a second by Mr. Bates. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, Commissioner. All right. The 2022 Public Safety Coordinating Council Subcommittee draft documents we have today with us for her very first meeting is Colonel Christy Poor, and so she is taking the place of Colonel Moore that was sitting with us before. So we've made that one change. If you could take a look at the proposed committees and the assignments and see if you see any changes that we should be making, if you have any suggestions. And Ms. Wild says, I know you're sitting in for Mr. Warren. If you could just touch base with him, because he has Ms. Marati sitting on some of the committees. He has Ms. Catula sitting on some of the committees. So if you could just double check with him that those are the individuals that he would like to have sitting, I will. Does anyone see any other changes or any other suggestions of anything that we should review? This agenda item does not require any type of motion. If anyone does see anything that needs to be updated, if you could please email Ms. Preza. She'll make the appropriate changes for us, and then we'll have the final committee memberships for our next regularly scheduled meeting. At this time, I would call upon Colonel Poor and Major Baumann and have them do their presentation on the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office Reentry Resources presentation. There have been a lot of discussions in our community of late in terms of reentry, and in speaking to Mr. Parkinson, we thought it would be a informative type of presentation to let us know exactly what the Department of Corrections and the Sheriff's Office are doing in this area of reentry. So please, if you would, along the way, if you need to ask questions, please do so. If you see anything that you think might be a gap in any fashion whatsoever, or something that you'd like more explanation on, please feel free to let us know, because this is intended to educate us all on the reentry efforts of Hillsborough County.
Thank you, Ms. Holt. Yes, and Ms. Hansford is going to present the information for y'all. And as you said, if you have any questions, or if there's something that we don't cover that we need to explain further, we'll be happy to take questions. But she's going to present a PowerPoint for y'all.
Good morning. My name is Darlene Hansford. I'm the Director of Programs and Services in the jail. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak about the wealth of programs we have available in our jails today. I want to give thanks to Sheriff Chronister for his leadership in making these programs possible. They provide our incarcerated men and women with real chances to succeed once they get out. As we all know, reentry is a community effort. All of us here have a role. We're extremely thankful at HCSO to have an abundance of volunteers and community partners who come into our facilities and provide these services. At HCSO, we take a holistic approach to reentry. We offer programs that assist the incarcerated men and women and lead them on the right path to success. We assist them with their mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and social well-being. Next slide. Reentry really begins with law enforcement, from community policing, where we make interactions with citizens, diversion programs, which stops people from coming to jail at all, issuing notices to appear instead of sending somebody to jail, our school resource officers who make a positive role in kids' lives, and our HCSO Behavioral Resource Unit that assists persons with mental health issues and assists those that are homeless. Next slide. So in the jail, we have a multitude of treatment and intervention programs. The first is our substance abuse treatment program. Predominantly, the people in that program are going to be court-ordered. We do take volunteers and DCF referrals. The mission of the substance abuse treatment program is to develop and strengthen coping mechanisms that support a clean and sober lifestyle to prevent relapse. Our staff provide a comprehensive assessment, drug education, group and individual counseling, case management services, follow-up treatment, and a discharge plan that includes linkage to our community service providers. Our program is DCF licensed, and under Sheriff Chronister's leadership in 2019, we earned a CARF accreditation. And of the approximately 3,500 programs that are accredited on CARF's website to provide treatment, we are the only one who utilize our own staff within a jail. Most people privatize and bring somebody else in. So that's a pretty big acknowledgement. Next slide, please. These are some of our treatment program staff. We have added 2 more, hoping to give some more people help. Next slide. We also have a domestic violence intervention program. The facilitator of that program counsels the batterer on the consequences of the violence for themselves, their families, and others. We use curriculum from the Duluth Domestic Abuse Intervention Program. Under Sheriff Chronister's leadership, wow, I can't even know his name. We started a Veterans Resurgence program, which is his favorite topic. pretty much any day of the year, you can walk in there and I can see the sheriff in there. It's very unusual to see him all over the jail. He implemented that program in August 2019. It is a 2-month intensive program with wraparound services that we provide verified veterans with life skills, mental health counseling, and wraparound services. Any veterans who stay in the pod beyond that time, which unfortunately we have, I believe we have one gentleman who's been there 2 years waiting on disposition, they help co-facilitate the classes and help their fellow veterans. Our participants in that program are linked to the VA, the Crisis Center, and many other community providers that will help them assist with their transition in the community. Colonel Poore and I were in the jail yesterday to celebrate Veterans Day and brought the gentleman in some pizza from Domino's, which was very appreciated. Next slide, please. This was the latest graduation we had. We had, I believe, 18 gentlemen graduate from the 2-month program. Next slide. At the beginning, we had the guys in the pod paint murals on the wall to kind of denote their military branch of service. It's the only pod in the jail that is decorated and probably the cleanest pod in the jail. Next slide, please. Our newest addition is the Vocational Training Center, which is another one of Sheriff Chronister's directions. We were scheduled to start this in March of last year, and obviously we all know what happened with COVID. We started this in October, so we've been going about a year now. The programs are a collaborative effort with the Hillsborough County Public Schools technical colleges, and they provide valuable vocational and career training to assist the inmate students' ability to get employment after release. All vocational training focuses on education and providing marketable skills rather than supplementing our jail labor force. Inmate students are encouraged by our case managers to enroll in the schools once they're released. That's a picture of the building. It is a 10,000 square foot building. Next slide, please. One of the programs we offer is welding. It is hands-on instruction with shielded metal arc welding and an introduction to flux cord, which we're hoping to increase that with some more gas in there in the next class. The students learn safety, different welding techniques, using different types of electrodes. The students who pass the qualification test will earn a D1.1 certification through the American Welding Society. So a real certification that you would earn in school.
Good.
Next slide. This is just an example of one of the students doing a weld outside of one of the booths. Next slide, please. Another picture of some of our students and the teacher assisting the students. Another program we have in there is our Automotive Services Maintenance Program. It's also a lot of hands-on instruction with some classroom time that focuses on safety, tool identification, inspecting and services of fluids, the brake pads, the batteries, the electric, rotor, shaft replacement, all of the tire rotation, all of the basic stuff that we get done that costs us a fortune. Something that's new for us about 2 months ago, anybody who really shows a desire to want to proceed in that profession, we let them take an ASC entry-level certification. It's a real certification. Our teacher is a teacher from a local high school who is an accredited ASC teacher and actually inspector. Next slide, please. It's a picture of the shop, some of the guys learning about the underside of the car, doing tire maintenance. Next slide. This was our first women's class, who I have to say, they did a lot better than some of the men. They were very attentive, a lot more so, and we had a lot more finish than we do with the men. So, next slide, please. 2 other programs we offer are OSHA 10 Construction, which is a certification course on safety and preventing health hazards in the workforce, and forklift operator certification pursuant to OSHA standards. So we actually have a forklift in there that we actually have a vendor who does this, who goes outside and we have them all test on the forklift. And they walk away with true certifications. Next slide, please. A class we started over the summer, which has been extremely popular. Walking into the pods, I have all the women asking for this, is hair braiding. It is a course facilitated by the school district, again, a licensed cosmetology teacher, and the ladies are taught hands-on training with various braiding techniques, proper sanitation, sterilization, and how to identify diseases of the scalp. It's a fun class. It's one, we hold this one on Saturdays. It's one I come in for. It's enjoyable. We let them relax a little bit, and the ladies always kind of say it's like they're not in jail when they come in for this. Next slide, please. This was a graduation we had in the class just on Wednesday. The chief officiated this one for us. Next slide, please. In addition to the treatment, the veterans program, the vocational programs, we offer a multitude of educational, life skills, faith-based services, parenting. I'm not going to read all of them. The Flowmobile was coming. We've had them at the facility 4 times this year. Unfortunately, due to staffing shortages, they've been farmed out all over the state, but we hope to get them back. We were promised the first spot when they're ready to come back. We do a CPR AED first aid certification, the true Red Cross certification. They walk away with a card, learn a little bit if they have an overdose, how to try to prevent that and come out of that, and how to save their children and their family when they get out. Created does a human trafficking awareness class for us. We've had a number of our religious volunteers come back to do interdenominational services, Catholic, pastors on patrol, a number of different services. The Crisis Center does a trauma recovery for us with the women, focusing a lot on women who've been sexually abused. Next slide, please. And then our Reentry Center, which is across the street from the Orient Road Jail. It's co-located with our registration unit. So when anybody comes from prison or jail who has to register by state statute, we have staff members there to help them with a number of different services. Our case managers work closely with them to provide a conduit of services to aim their success back into the community. Next slide, please. This is the number of services that are provided there. Our case managers really focus on the immediate needs when they're getting out of jail and prison. Housing, transitional housing, applying for food stamps, applying for the county's health care plan, assistance with Medicaid, transportation, getting them bus passes to get where they need to go, and providing a linkage with the multitude of all of these services we have here in Hillsborough County. Next slide. Major, I don't know if you want to take this one.
NAFCARE is our partner that provides medical services in both jail facilities, both Orient Road and Falkenberg Road Jail. We recently traveled to Chicago, where we were awarded by NCCHC, which is the National Commission on Correctional Health Care. They certify all of the incarceration facilities medical programs inside the jail. We are the first agency in the entire nation to receive the Pinnacle Award by NCCHC, and we are accredited in our MAT program, which is our medication-assisted treatment, our mental health treatment, as well as our overall medical care provided from NAFCARE. We have a variety of programs that we partnered with NAFCARE on. We have a mental health stabilization unit where we have inmates that historically have been housed in confinement housing with severe behavioral and mental health issues. We have a step-down program now where some of those inmates have been successful and they're back out into general population again, which historically would never have happened under the old methods that we used.
That's the last slide. Anybody has any questions, or if anybody wants to come on a tour and see some of the programs, Rob was out a couple of weeks ago. We walked through the veterans program, our vocational building, and it was enjoyable.
Does anyone have any questions for Commissioner Overman?
Thank you, and thank you very much for the presentation. That was very, very helpful, and clearly there's a lot of good work that's being done. I'd love to get a copy of the slides so that I have it to reference for various other programs that I'm working on at the moment. Glad to see that human trafficking through Created is being exposed to those that are going through the program. It's my understanding that we have policies at the county, whether it be for housing or emergency housing or other circumstances that create a challenge when it comes to finding housing. So I would love to find out if that is your experience, what kinds of problems you've run into, that policies that prohibit someone from finding a place to live. And then what methods you use for assisting with transportation, because that's frequently a problem with many of those reentering who may or not have a vehicle.
So housing is a big issue in this county, as we all know. Rent's exorbitant right now. It's just how the whole nation is. There is definitely a shortage of transitional housing. And I know we've looked at the backside of our reentry center, which used to be work release, of turning that into some sort of a shelter for people coming out of the jails. So that would be a big benefit. Housing is a huge issue. We do have a number of faith-based providers who help, obviously Salvation Army. And there's quite a few different housing providers, but that is certainly an issue, particularly with persons of certain charges who may have a 1,000-foot rule or something like that. And you hit the nail on the head, Commissioner. Transportation is a huge issue. At Orient Road, we used to have a bus stop, and we lost that a couple of years ago. So we give the guys bus passes, but they have to walk, a mile down the road to catch the bus. So it is an issue.
Excellent. And so I'm thinking of housing policies that may not be part of the faith-based, but for example, if you're trying to find shelter through the county system, frequently, if you've got a male adult coming into a household that is, part of the household, because we have many families now that are multi-generational, given our economic climate, you're prohibited from being able to live there frequently. So I'm looking at those policies where we have the ability to allow someone who's going through programs like this and has the certifications that they've gone through it to not be prohibited from living in that household. We also have had some issues that I believe are occurring with landlords being notified that someone with a history may have put the entire family at risk of being displaced, and that's not okay either. So I would really look forward to getting some data on what you find are the largest challenges when it comes to housing and transitional housing, so that we could identify policies that may need an examination and possibly make some changes there to help folks actually stay successfully in the community and not find themselves back out either on the street and then at risk of being going back to jail. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So Commissioner Overman, we have a reentry committee that Sheriff Chronister actually chairs, and so I'll reach out to the sheriff and see if he would like to convene that particular committee to perhaps identify the things that you're suggesting, and as well as collecting data. So I'll reach out to the sheriff and ask him to consider that. Mr. Proctor, sir?
Yes, I was looking, it sounds like an excellent programs. What type of statistics do you have on the success rate of graduates that have gone through the certification project? Do we have an idea of how many have been successfully placed? And then do we have any numbers on those that have been placed, the longevity of them within that arena?
For the vocational, we really don't have that statistics yet. We're just hitting the first year, so we're waiting until the end of this year to generate that. We do have a number of guys who've been successful. We had a gentleman get out last week who 2 days afterwards had a job interview. We've had a number of that. We had a young man who did both our welding, automotive, AMI kids did a core curriculum introduction to carpentry class for us. He was in jail for quite a while and walked out with that. The forklift, the Osha, he got a job with the American Welding Society labor union the day after he got out at $18 an hour, and I believe he's 20 or 21 years old. So we have a number of successes. Some of the difficulties are in them reaching back out to us. Our case managers call them and try to stay in touch, but there are issues with some of them reaching back. But we've had a number that have done well. We had another guy who moved to Orlando who did well. So it's quite a few people that are doing well. Our veterans program, I know the rearrest rate for the ones who've successfully finished was, I believe it's 16% to date. So not terrible, because a lot of the gentlemen in our veterans pod have some serious drug histories, some PTSD, and other issues to overcome.
Okay, any other questions for Ms. Hansford? Ms. Lewis?
I'm sorry. It's not really a question, it's just a concern of the need of the citizens in Hillsborough County. So what I'm hearing is that when some of these, the people are released, they're released back into the community, but they're having difficulty finding a place to live. With the housing boom that's going on here in the city of Tampa and in the county, with all of the apartments complex going up, there is truly a need, and I hope everyone understand, of 100% affordable housing in this county and in this city. You know, the need for high-end housing and luxury housing is really not there when you got the lower mass of the people who are being put out and have no place to go, but yet you're asking them to be productive citizens, and they can't be productive citizens, and I see them trying to figure out how to make ends meet. So the effort at the NAACP and throughout the community is that we no longer need high-end luxury apartments. We need apartments that people can afford to live in 100%, not just the 10% that the federal government allows them to get away with. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Parkinson, sir?
I'd just like to add, I did go out and visit the Veterans Treatment Pod, as well as the new vocational programs. I had not been out there to see the new vocational programs, and I was completely blown away. The Sheriff's Office has really equipped those programs to a very high level. The technology, the equipment, the staff were incredible. I was very impressed with the one-on-one interaction, both instructional and the mentoring that was going on between the program staff and the participants. The individual that you mentioned that was released and got a job within a couple days, I had the opportunity to talk to him. I was very impressed with him.
He's a good kid, made a bad mistake, but.
He's definitely somebody who used the opportunities that were afforded to him while he was a guest over at Falkenberg. But he also worked very closely with his instructor and to reach out to the union and create that path. He was very excited, and I was very impressed with the level of excitement of the participants. So congratulations, please keep that up. I guess my one question is, I saw the welding, I saw the automotive, I saw the forklift, I saw the hair braiding. Do you have anything kind of on the radar for next year to add additional vocational options?
We absolutely do. We're actually going to start the Servsafe Food Manager course, which is anybody even in McDonald's, you see that little blue certificate. If you get that on your own, it's about $500. We're going to be offering that to the women. We think we're going to start that sometime this month, assuming they pass that test, which is not an easy test. We're also going to be offering retail basics, so how to work in Kohl's, how to do stocking, Amazon. It's a three-part. It starts with basic, then it goes to advanced, and it goes to logistics. We're also looking at, AMI Kids did an intro to carpentry. We're looking at doing our own kind of carpentry, whether we do it with our own staff or contract with somebody. The school district's kind of tapped out on our carpentry people, but we're definitely looking at that. So we're looking at all sorts of things. We've had a number of our volunteers come back. We're continuing to welcome in the door. It's just as people feel safe again to come into the jails, we expect the number of programs to really expand. Sheriff Chronister is 100% behind it. Colonel Poore and all of our command staff really believe in while they're our guests, giving them the skills they need to not come back.
Commissioner Overman.
Thank you, and I'm sorry, if I'd like to follow up on that same line. It sounds like we're doing a great job of providing education for being able to be successful financially on their own, but one of the gaps that exists between middle income and lower income individuals, especially those that may have been out of the system for, out of our economy for a while, is the lack of understanding of how to utilize technology. If you can't access the internet, know how to do stuff, know how software systems work, you can't tap into any benefits with the county. So I would like to ask if it's possible that you could explore opportunities to make sure that when people are reentering into our society, that they're prepared with the tools on how to engage. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. And that's something Colonel Poore and I are talking about it's always been kind of a dirty word in the jails of internet, but we're looking at finding a secure way to do that. We do have staff now that everybody who's in vocational is signed up on Employ Florida, but it's one-on-one with my staff, taking their time. If we could do it as a group and get more inmates or returning citizens at that point registered for different services. We do the county health care while they're in the facility. So that's being done by NAF Care. They come in and they get them enrolled in that. And then should they not get enrolled in things when they get out and they go to the reentry center, they can apply for a number of different things for them.
Colonel Poore.
Yes, thank you, and thank y'all for your questions. We have a lot of things in motion. She mentioned that the internet is it's shaky ground in the jail for a lot of security reasons. Our IT department really shies away from that. However, moving forward with Sheriff Chronister and Chief Lazinski giving us the support to teach these people some of the skills and give them the opportunity to have what they need to be successful when they get out. I feel like it's already in motion. It's being written up. We're asking for it. The other thing I'd like to just explain to y'all is that we'll get this PowerPoint sent to Tanya and sent out to each member so that you guys have it. The other thing, Ms. Hansford, Darlene, and the major, the staff that work in the jails for us do a phenomenal job. There's a passion there that it's hard to describe unless you come in and visit. And I would sincerely invite each and every one of you to come. Let us give you a tour. Some of the areas I would like to see, I've been assigned to this for about a month now, a month and a half, for us to improve overall in the jail is the completion of programs, being able to offer pre-sentenced inmates. Right now, we only do sentenced, and most of our residents, most of our housing are pre-sentenced. So to be able to offer those, that could be challenging because of not knowing when they'll get it out. Could they be in the middle of anything? But I feel that we should offer them, even if we're just keeping them busy while they're in jail. If we can offer them just a little bit to help them to gain some self-worth and to gain any small amount of knowledge of hair braiding, cosmetology. And then the second goal that I have is to offer a lot more for females. Our female population obviously is not as large, but there is a lot of difficulty for females to go out and get their feet underneath them as well. So those are the things, and thank you for having me. And if anybody has any questions, or if I can help in any way, or if y'all have any ideas of things we could do in the jail, we are absolutely wide open for any ideas. So thank you.
All right. Mr. Parkinson, and then we're going to bring this in for a landing because we have two other presentations.
Absolutely. One follow-along comment. Ms. Hansford talked about an initiative that's been in discussion for a couple of years now. The general name for it is 1800 Orient Road, which is a location of the criminal registration unit across the street from Orient Road Jail. The concept has been to turn that building, which used to be a work-release building, so it has a residential capacity, into some kind of transitional housing model with 75 to 150 beds. That way, individuals that no longer needed to be in the jail can be released in an environment where they get continued wraparound services, not just housing, but substance abuse, vocational linkage, et cetera. And that's really important because, as Commissioner Overman mentioned, it's really challenging to get housing in our community, especially challenging for our target population. What that does is it gives them an initial period of time, say 90 to 180 days, to do some of those linkages. Sometimes we have people coming out of the jail that actually have a voucher to get an apartment, but nobody's accepting the vouchers right now. So that gives them kind of a prolonged period to continue to receive wraparound services, which are largely voluntary, and then be linked to more permanent housing down the road. And that discussion has been ongoing. I think largely the Sheriff's Office is supportive of using that facility for that purpose. I think the challenge is just finding the resources. Our Healthcare Services Department has been a primary partner in that, and they certainly want to help provide a wraparound health care, substance abuse, mental health services, et cetera. The challenge is finding the capital dollars to make the environmental modifications to the building. But that can certainly help with some of this.
Yes, is this Councilman Goods?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, sir.
Just one question for the Sheriff's Office staff. You know, we have a lot of aging masonry folks that are leaving the profession due to age, you know, and I think with all the buildings going on, the sidewalks that we need built, I'm hoping that they would think about looking at a masonry class, because they're always looking for masonry young men to get out there to what I call lay mud, and they're struggling with that. So I would hope that they would kind of look at that with some upcoming programs they may have, because that is a quick, easy way for a young man or female to be able to get on the workforce.
Okay. And they are shaking their head, yes, Councilman, so I think that they will take all of this into consideration. There is no doubt that under the leadership of Sheriff Chronister, there's been a tremendous amount of emphasis on not only providing a continuum of care within the jail that really keeps people in a healthy way, but also in giving them life skills that can certainly help them. And our office, obviously, and the state attorney's office see the benefit of all of this, because it actually plays out in a courtroom, and it plays out when people are on probation and things of that sort. So it really has, when we talk about collaboration and partnerships and everybody benefiting from it, the sheriff and Chief Lazinski deserve an awful lot of credit for the improvement and all the building of services and suggestions that they've come up with over the last several years. So certainly pass that on to the sheriff and to the chief, and see if they'll let me use the internet when I go to the jail. Okay, thank you very much. At this time, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Jaquiss, sir, the Department of Corrections Reentry Resources presentation.
Hi, good morning. Yes, I'm Michael Johnson, the Deputy Circuit Administrator for the Florida Department of Corrections, and we're going to give you a brief overview of some reentry efforts that the Florida Department of Corrections is currently making. And that'll be presented by our Senior Supervisor, Manley Jaquiss.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I think you can hear me here. If you can pull up our PowerPoint, I'd be most appreciative. Next slide, please. To add on to what the Sheriff's Department is doing, I'd like to say that I can tell you from the other end of the pipeline, what the Sheriff is doing and their team over there is phenomenal, and we appreciate the hard work that you all are doing. We have the other side, where people get sentenced to probation, and we in turn work with each and every one, and we've changed a lot of our philosophies. One of the programs that we have developed, it's called the Interactive Offender Telephone System, or IOTS for short. We have many individuals that after a few months of being on supervision, they're complying with the basic requirements. They're coming in to see their officer, they're gainfully employed, they're going to treatment, they're doing the things that are required, and their risk level is such we don't need to have them come into the office. And what I mean by that is every month the probationer would come in and fill out a written monthly report. It has tremendous value, and we need that information, but to have them take a day off from work to come and see us for that meeting, we found that we were actually hurting them in the long run. So now for individuals that are indeed eligible for this program, they call in, and the system will ask very specific questions. Have you moved? Have you changed your job? Have you had any contact with law enforcement? And if the probation officer gets any responses during this electronic transformation, we in turn can have this individual come in at a later date to see us. And what we have found is that individuals find it easier for them to comply with their conditions because they don't have to come in to see us for those regular minimum level risk cases. And so this is a fairly new program. We have worked it out with the chief judge, where traditionally we charge individuals $40 a month for cost of supervision. Now, I say we charge them, but there's a lot of leeway in which to waive this. But for the individuals that are elected to be into this program, that rate has been reduced to $30 a month. So they're actually saving $10, and the reason for that is to be in the program, it's a $7 a month charge that the offender actually pays to the vendor. So they're saving money, they don't miss work, and we're finding that it's much more successful for them. We have another program that we've just developed, and it's called Face It. And the premise of this is that individuals that get placed on supervision are going to meet with the probation officer, and there's going to be basically a class. It's a 2-hour class with the offender, their family, and we go over some basic tenets with the underlying reason that communication is critical. Sometimes in the age of technology, things are flying so quick, but no one stops to really find out, why is the person on supervision? What can we do to assist this person get through the problem that they faced? We might have many people on for the same charge, but they each are there because of a different reason. Peer pressure, drug abuse, true financial hardship. And so this is a new program that we're hoping to roll out at the beginning of the year. And again, communication is the main effort. Employment specialist efforts. Every judicial circuit in Florida has an employee specialist. And what this person does is he finds jobs for those on probation. Now, I will say years ago, he had a much harder time in doing so. Today, it's not quite as difficult, although those with some lengthier records do have a problem. But we have a fantastic guy, his name is Matthew Ball, and he goes to all kinds of job sites and says, okay, we have a clientele that needs a job, tell me what your requirements are, and then we in turn have meetings in our various offices where we get people together. Mr. Ball gives them tips on how to fill out a resume, how to conduct themselves during an interview, and we have found that to be very successful. And so we're continuing those efforts, and now we're doing so not as much for those that are perhaps not employed, but those that might be underemployed, because as you know, they're hiring every place. Holt Correctional, that's our closest full feed prison. And prior to COVID, we would go out there almost monthly. We found value to meet with those inmates that were being released to our community. And what we would do is we'd get everybody together and we would go over the basic conditions of supervision that apply to everyone. Then we would meet with them individually and go over their specific conditions. And the idea was, if they knew right up front what they had to do, answer any questions that we could for them, we would direct them to our partners at the Hillsborough Sheriff's Department, their HREC Center, and we found that that seamless delivery was much more successful than having people get released from prison and saying, okay, go to Tampa, bye. And again, it's communication that we're stressing. COVID did put a damper to us going into the correctional facilities. However, that has now been lifted, and we are in touch with Polk Correctional. And as the releases begin to accumulate in the near future, we are going to be going back into those to make those contacts. Next slide, please. We do some innovative things as well. We want to let the individuals on supervision know that, yes, we have the responsibility of enforcing the conditions, but we're also in the same community that they are. We want to assist them in being not only great probationers, but great citizens. And so we hosted a back-to-school backpack drive. And each of our local probation offices, all the officers and whoever, we gathered up a tremendous amount of supplies, and then we batched it up and we gave them to the individuals with children. And I think that was a positive reinforcement that we're here to assist them. That was a good thing. We're in the process now. We are doing a similar thing for Thanksgiving. We've asked each of our field offices to identify those that are in need, and we had the supervisors select 80 families. And we're raising the funds and the goodies so that we can give them, 80 people can have a Thanksgiving dinner as we're telling them we want you to continue doing great things. Prison probation release meetings. The Department of Corrections is basically one large agency, two halves. As you're aware, the prison side right now is having some very unique difficulties that are being addressed. But a lot of times we have individuals, they get, as I said before, get released from prison, they go to probation, and the two sides, we're trying to improve our own internal communication. And earlier this week, we had a regional meeting where all of the intake supervisors from our region, together with the prison release supervisors, got together to say, how can we improve? How can we, again, make this more seamless for those being released? And so, again, communication is job one. Local job fairs. Mr. Ball, not only does he attend different job fairs, gets information for our inmates/offenders, he also goes ahead and we're hosting job fairs at our office. We get different vendors to come in, and it's very common to have people pulled to the side and given a job offer shortly after that meeting. Again, not only do we have the responsibility of getting these individuals through supervision, ideally successfully, but to make them better than how they came here. And the last slide, and I just stress this as our driving point, is communication. The Department of Corrections, from when I started 34 years ago to now, is a totally different department. Our management team, starting with Pat Barentine, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, all the way up to our secretary, is stressing the same things that we heard from the Sheriff's Department's presentation. We want to do more with these individuals, make them better, provide them opportunities, and ideally leave them better than how we found them. Communication at all levels is a strong priority. And I can tell you from my perspective as the intake supervisor here in Tampa, I appreciate everyone in this room because the communication that we receive has been so valuable, I believe, in helping change many lives. And so with that, that's our presentation. I thank you for the opportunity. And if you have any questions, more than happy to answer them for you.
Mr. Jaquiss, I just had one. In terms of the placement of individuals with jobs and matching those up, do you actually have some type of data that you can share with us on that?
I can request that from Mr. Ball. I don't have it with me, but I know Mr. Ball does keep track of those placements that he does, and I can ask that we get that sent to you. Yes, ma'am.
That'd be great. Thank you. Commissioner Overman.
I love the interactive offender telephone system method of actually managing a probationary individual. We could call it tele-freedom, because that's what it's providing, and actually providing a better opportunity for it. So it's instead of telehealth, I love the tele-freedom. So, but I think that also, could be adopted in some of the other slides that you showed. It looked like that was a great opportunity for helping people to find success in maintaining their freedom and not recidivism. Thank you.
And just to add on to that, our assigned officers still will see these individuals as required at their homes. We're not reducing our supervision, but we are reducing having them come in to miss work, to making it easier for them. I like that, tele-freedom. That's better than IOTS.
Thank you very much. Because I mean, given transportation and housing is one of our biggest, barriers to success.
Yes.
Not having to lose your job because you have to show up at these meetings, nor do you have to take time off, and you have a better opportunity to participate because you don't have to go somewhere when you don't have a vehicle. Sounds like a great opportunity for helping someone become successful. Thank you.
Mr. Parkinson, sir.
Yes, about 7 years ago, the Board of County Commissioners worked with the State Department of Corrections to develop and implement the Ready for Work program here in Hillsborough County, which is operated through A. Brown Ministries.
Yes.
And it's a work readiness program and a work placement program. It's very robust. Not only is it robust, but the data and outcomes that they produce are fairly robust. They actually have a data system that they borrowed from someone else called Efforts to Outcomes, which covers all the issues that you would be concerned with: recidivism, job placement, housing, et cetera. You guys still fund them?
Yes.
And have since we got that program off the ground. So I would ask when you present the data to us that you also reach out to Robert Blount over at A. Brown and see if they can give you kind of a 20,000-foot summary of how that program is doing as well. because that is under the DOC umbrella.
I will do so.
It certainly seems that, at least from what we've seen in the Public Defender's Office, it seems like our clients are able to use Zoom fairly well. Obviously, we have a lot of court proceedings and a lot of depositions that occur with that, and so anything that we can do to keep people at their place of employment as opposed to leaving their place of employment and having the appropriate contact with the department would be another suggestion also perhaps to consider. Because there's a small number of our clients that are restricted from using the internet on probation, but the majority of them have access in some way through either their employment or through their own home. Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation and the good work and the change in philosophy that has been occurring. It's been a tremendous help. Thank you. At this time, we will have the PowerNet of Tampa presentation by Mr. Craig Powell.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I appreciated those earlier presentations. I won't spend time introducing myself formally because I want to make sure I stay within the time frame. But there's some very good work going on in both the Sheriff's Office and the Department of Corrections. Good programs, appreciated hearing about them. But I'm coming to you from a distinctly community-based perspective. I run a nonprofit organization that I started back in 2002 in Ohio. I've transitioned here about 6 years ago and have registered PowerNet of Tampa to continue the work we started. I am concerned that with all the good work, all the fantastic programs we've heard about, Hillsborough County continues to send more people to prison, more people return, and we have the highest recidivism rates of any county over 1 million population. And that has been consistent over the last at least two annual recidivism reports that the department publishes, both for 2020 and most recently 2021. Now I'm trying to juxtapose what we've heard with those statistics. And so I'm here to bring that question, that concern to the table, but more importantly offer a potential way out. I happen to have grown up in a community in Ohio, Montgomery County, who at some point back in the early 2000s also led the state in recidivism. And I worked with a federal judge and our county commission to start to look at it, and we started really a task force and started to do a strategic plan. It took a year or two, but we did a strategic plan, and then our recidivism rates start to come down. What I'm suggesting is that with all the good programs and the services, the capacity that this county has, I don't think it's going to create the optimal outcomes and results unless we work together on a strategic plan that can be shared by all these agencies, and just as, if not more importantly, all of the community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, the storefronts that number in the thousands in this county, who, which no one in the room knows, the number can quantify it, have housing, transportation, and employment opportunities. Now, we've just mentioned during a couple of these presentations that that's a limiting factor. But without engaging our community, which I propose we do, and that's a necessary part of a strategic planning initiative, is to go to the corners and into the some of the isolated areas of this county in urban areas, engage individuals who want to be part of the solution, but who are not at the table. So I have established and formally submitted, I think it just came across electronically this morning, a formal proposal that I hope the Public Safety Coordinating Council will look at and recommend to happen. Now, I've had direct experience in Ohio, being among the leadership when that started, and I've been working with Palm Beach County here in Florida, who commenced a similar effort over 10 years ago. And my last comments are, what if? There's some possibilities that can happen when you come around the table and start to hear from organizations and nonprofits and grassroots organizations who aren't necessarily following or a part of this body. Not only are some of the issues of housing, transportation, employment an issue, but what about a person who's cynical? A person who doesn't believe their life is going to change, who's been there, done that 2 or 3 times, and just doesn't get it. What about them? That is a challenge. How can we address that? That's where the community comes in, because they are all related to somebody in this community. That is, the strategic plan is a deliverable that would happen during a 18-month process, possibly. But the process involved with getting to the plan engages individuals on a level that hasn't typically happened. I don't understand that it's necessarily happened in this community yet, which becomes part of the solution, a resource, and all the hundreds, thousands of mentors and coaches and supportive individuals who want to help. So here's one thing that I'm aware of, and again, I'm sensitive to referring to other jurisdictions, but one way we attack the issue of someone whose belief system, they're not motivated, is to create an end in mind. And this is my last comments. In Ohio, we have passed, they passed legislation back in 2012 that gave individuals a way out. That is, created a certificate of good citizenship, good standing. And I'm just trying to describe it to you. That's not the formal title. But a sentencing judge could hear from an individual who has been convicted of a felony after having served their time and demonstrated their rehabilitation, their social and economic reintegration, and sign off on a certificate that would allow them to operate in our county without discrimination. That is, show up at a business or at a landlord's.
You may have to check your microphone.
Essentially be void of discrimination because of a judge's signature. You heard the saying? Okay. So that's just one of the things that can happen. And that takes coordination between the Department of Corrections, the Hillsborough County law enforcement, and judicial systems.
Mr. Powell, hang on 1 minute, please. Are you doing a mic check, sir? Because it appears that the people that are on virtually can't hear. All right, thank you.
Testing 1 2, testing 1 2.
I hear you.
Well, that's a convenient point for me to stop.
If you could sit here to conclude on this microphone, it's that microphone that we lost.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Mr. Powell has said that he is going to stop at that point. If I understand correctly, what Mr. Powell is asking of the Public Safety Coordinating Council, either at this time or at a later time, because I know that he is meeting with several stakeholders individually in the next week or so. But he is suggesting that PowerNet of Tampa, which is Mr. Powell, would work with governmental and community-based partners and would convene what he would then call the Hillsborough County Community Action Network to lead a countywide effort to assess, analyze, and make recommendations that address the need for criminal and social justice reform in Hillsborough County. He would suggest that he work in partnership with, so Hillsborough County can, led by PowerNet of Tampa, in partnership with the Public Safety Coordinating Council, the Hillsborough Ex-Offender Reentry Network, and the CDC of Tampa would work together. Operating under the umbrella of CDC, PowerNet would lead the planning and community engagement effort, utilizing the skills and experience of a criminal and social justice consultant called the Baumann Group. And that he believes that the Hillsborough County can initiative that he is discussing could do strategic planning for about 18 to 24 months to complete a 3 to 5 year strategic plan that would be countywide to reduce crime and improve the quality of life for Hillsborough County residents. And he estimates that a budget of $85,000 to $125,000 would be needed to complete this initiative. Ms. Wiles, I don't know if you'll be in a position to speak of this, but I know that Mr. Warren is the chair at this point statewide of a committee that is looking at statewide criminal justice reform initiatives as opposed to just the initiatives that have been created here locally. I also know that we have under Commissioner Myers and the Board of County Commission, we have begun basically working together to try and address youth violence, gun violence, the number of outstanding homicide cases that we might have that have been unsolved. And both of the major law enforcement agencies have created initiatives within them to look at, obviously, crime, trying to lessen crime, trying to address violent crime and things of that sort. So I know we have a lot of initiatives going on at this time. I know that the school board is also creating their own plan on how to address some of these things. So, and again, as I said, I know Mr. Powell is meeting with people individually together with this criminal justice reform specialist that he has brought on as a consultant. So it would be, just to remind everybody what our role is, our role here would be to make recommendations potentially to the Board of County Commission as it relates to some initiatives. I personally today feel that it would be premature without the individual meetings for us to move forward on something specific today. However, you as individual council members can at this time let me know how you feel. I do know that there is supposed to be meetings with the sheriff's office, with commissioner's office, with state attorney's office, public defender's office, and I'm sure there's other people that are involved, but in an effort to avoid any violations of our sunshine law, this matter had to be brought, number one, here to the council first to see whether or not we even wanted to move forward at this time, or if we want to wait until these individual meetings occur, and then we can have a transparent discussion at our next meeting. Commissioner Overman, and then Ms. Lewis, and then Ms. Stewart.
Thank you, and thank you for sort of laying out where we are with this. I agree it would be premature to actually recommend this at this point because we haven't really identified the scope and deliverables that would be included in a possible proposal at this point. Plus, typically, a service like this would actually go out for RFP and be a competitive bid for something like that at the county level, at the Board of County level. So working through the decision to go through a sole source contract has some complexities and requirements that we would need to address in that process. But that being said, I look forward to meeting with Mr. Powell. I know we're scheduled to meet next week to consider what is being proposed and what technologies would allow all of these entities to talk to each other to be able to find that the outcome would be what the Public Safety Coordinating Council would like to see. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Lewis?
Yes, I also agree that this is premature. I would really like to find out more information and, about the program and the services that they're planning on offering. And I have some concerns with the partnerships that they have formed, so I definitely think it's a little premature. I cannot, thank you. That's it.
Ms. Stewart?
Thank you. I concur with my fellow council members, and I think that this board would need to see not only the proposal, but the results of some data that he was talking about at the state level, and how that affects Hillsborough County specifically and how it compares with our own data. Because, we all know that the state data is sometimes calculated very differently than the data that we have right here in Hillsborough County. So I'd have to see that before we move forward on anything.
Anyone else? Any other comments? Okay. Then at this time, Mr. Powell, I think everyone's looking forward to meeting with you and the consultant, and then this matter will be addressed at a later time, either through Board of County Commission business itself, or if the board makes a recommendation that we take this on and look at it and vet it more, whatever it is that the Board of County Commissioners chooses at that time.
Okay, can I follow up with you to understand the protocol at this point, whether it's going to come up at your next meeting or be referred to the county commission?
I would probably say that it will be an agenda item at the time that the Board of County Commission looks at its parameters and looks at all. We probably will get some guidance from the board on this matter, and it'll probably include some legal counsel for us too, so that we can be assured that we're following the right protocols.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there any other business before? Is there any public comment? And if not, may you all have a wonderful holiday season. Be safe, stay healthy, and thank you very much for all your hard work this past year. Bye to everyone that's virtual.